Hi guys, there's something I want us to talk about, and that is the issue of credit score. So if you're someone who is living in a society where credit score is a thing, which means for you to probably get a mortgage loan, or for you to get a car loan, or for you to even rent where you're going to be living, you probably need a good credit score. Then I believe this video could actually be beneficial to you. Now let's get straight into this video. What are some of the things that could adversely or negatively impact your credit score or your credit report? Number one would be having too many credit cards. So if for someone like myself who came from Nigeria to the UK, and in Nigeria we don't have a credit card, so coming here I found that a lot of banks, both online and high street banks, will begin to offer you credit cards. Now if you decide to apply for a credit card, what then happens is the bank who is offering you that credit card usually would run an inquiry, a credit inquiry, and sometimes that entails or that involves what is called a hard search or a hard inquiry. So there's a soft search and there's a hard search. A soft search is more superficial. It's just like the bank or whoever is offering you that loan just having a quick search through things like experience to see how well your credit score, your credit report is. But the hard one is more in-depth, which means they will go into further detail, to make sure to check if you're owing somewhere, if you've defaulted a payment or not. And usually once a hard search has been done by a potential lender, it negatively impacts your credit score, which means your credit score is going to go down. It's difficult to say by how much it will go down, but it's going to negatively impact your credit score. So if you can do with only one credit card, better for you. The second thing, or the other thing that can adversely affect your credit score, your credit report, is overspending on your credit card or credit cards. It's typically advised that you should not spend beyond 30% of the spending limit on your credit card at any particular point in time. Sometimes it becomes tricky because you might want to order something on Amazon, maybe a new iPhone 15 for instance, or a new MacBook or any device, and probably that device is going to cost you above £500, and maybe your loan allowance or your credit allowance or your credit card could be £1,000, £2,000, £3,000, depending on how much limits you've been given. You find out that some people prefer making online expenses using their credit card and then clearing that out. That's acceptable. That's something, if you can clear it out within 1, 2, 3 days, perfect. If it's something that if it's a device you believe you strongly need, then I would say probably consider buying it on your debit card. Okay, just so you don't go beyond your 30% spending limit at a time, because what it tells the bank or what it tells potential lenders in future is that you might be heavily depending on loans to survive, on credit to survive. So that's one thing you should be very cautious about. The other thing I will say, which I've mentioned, partly initially, is the hard search. Try to minimize unnecessary hard searches on your credit reports. And one thing I would say from my personal experience is, if you're not 100% ready to take out a mortgage loan, don't just go around trying to understand how it works, going to meet home sellers, and then obviously getting a decision in principle, and then after getting a decision in principle, your information might be transmitted to a potential lender, a bank or a building society. That bank or building society is going to run a hard search on you, and if after running that hard search on you, even if they find out that you are eligible to be given a loan, if for any reason, either something that is beyond your control or something that is not beyond your control, if you're not able to proceed with that loan, already that hard search has been carried out, your credit score has already dropped. So it's in your best interest to actually proceed with that loan, which means if you're not ready, don't start. Okay, don't go for a loan when you're not 100% certain you're going to pull through, you're going to go through with that, with getting that loan, such as a mortgage, for instance. Because I personally had that experience, due to some circumstances that came up, towards closure of the house. We had to withdraw, we had to pull away, and that already hard credit search had been carried out. It had already negatively impacted my credit score quite significantly. But obviously that's not the end of life. We'll try again sometime, but it's quite annoying that a search on your credit score or your credit report should actually reduce your credit score. It's quite annoying. But I've looked it up. The explanation is that the information it gives, or the signal it gives to potential lenders in the future, is that maybe you're over-relying. This person is applying for a new loan, this person is applying for a new credit, and there's a likelihood that maybe they're over-relying on credit. So it's quite a very rigid system. It's not a system that takes into account flexibility or context. A lot of the time is a rigid numerical kind of system. So it's in your best interest to understand that and then know how to play it safe. Another thing that can potentially negatively affect your credit score is if you're not on the voters register. So as soon as you come into the UK or Canada, US, or any other country that uses the credit system, you need to apply. You need to get yourself registered in your county as a voter. That helps improve your accessibility, your identity. Your identity that this person is legally. Because if you're legally resident in this, because if you're not legally resident, you can't be on the voters register. So it tells potential lenders that you are legally resident. Okay, you're not an illegal resident, you're legally resident in that place for you to be on the voters register. And of course, you're a responsible a citizen or a responsible resident in that locality. So they're more happy to provide loans to you. The next factor that can negatively impact your credit score, or can render your credit score in a negative light, is delayed payments. So for instance, you might have a credit, one or two credit cards, and if those credit cards are not put on direct debits for it to be cleared from your normal savings account or credit, if you don't put a direct debit for that money to be cleared, and you forget to clear that money, and it goes beyond the payment date, it is registered as a delayed payment or a defaulted payment. And what happens is that it sends a signal to potential lenders that you are struggling financially. And if they give you a bigger loan, for instance, a mortgage loan, there's a likelihood that you might struggle and you might not be able to pay. Another one I will mention is court injunction. So sometimes if you're living in a country like the UK where I live, if you have a parking ticket, sometimes you might be given a parking ticket or a fine, and you might think it's been unfairly issued. That you might want to actually appeal. You might want to appeal that decision or that levy, which I have done. The other time I traveled to London, I was given a congestion charge fee. So after that journey, I actually made proactive steps, to make sure that I paid that. I set up a direct debit payment on my transport for London. But what happened was that apparently I set that up a day after my journey. Or I set it up a day after my journey. And then I was issued a fine of £180-ish, which was sent to my previous address. So I didn't receive it on time. And then what happened is that by the time it came to my current address, they had increased it to £274 levy or something like that. And I tried to appeal that. I explained everything, and it just felt like I was explaining it to a brick wall. Kept running around in circles. The person was appearing to understand where I was coming from, only for the person to take me to point A. And at the end of the day, I wrote a letter online, try to appeal for it to be cancelled. At the end of the day, the reply was that if I don't pay that money, that £274, there will be a court injunction for that money to be forcefully taken away from me. Now, if I had allowed that to happen, as soon as I got that, I had to pay it off immediately because I didn't want to have that court injunction. What that court injunction is going to do is that it's going to negatively, impact on your credit system, on your credit score. And anything that goes into your credit score remains on your credit score for 6 years. So imagine having the money to do something, but because of one, negative impact, one injury you've sustained on your credit reports, along the line, it remains on your credit score or your credit report for the next 6 years. That's not something you really want. So any way you're able to avoid certain things, I would advise you do. So it's quite sunny, trying to move away. Yeah. If this is the first time being on my channel, if you haven't subscribed, I would say click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that when next I post videos, if you think, my videos are quite, enlightening, you'll be notified once you get that video. And don't forget to leave a like, because obviously it tells the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm, that this video is useful, and then they're able to recommend it and share it on the screens of other YouTube users. Even if you think the video is not the best quality video, at least for the effort, I would say leave a like. Very much. Thank you very much for watching to this point, and I hope to see you in subsequent videos.